everybody. Good afternoon. Good job, good job, good job. Hey, welcome to the first meeting of our new Rotary year. I'm Kevin Kassir, your new president. And again, thank you all for the honor to be in this role and helping lead this club. Gonna announce a few things about some changes you'll see. I learned a lot at the large club conference that I was sent to, and so you're going to see some things today that came from that as some best-in-class type of recommendations on how to get meetings rolling and a little more engaging, and that's something that I'd like to do. As I say, good afternoon to you. I want to engage with you a little bit here and make this be a bit interactive. You're going to see some old things coming back, and then you're going to see some very new things. So hopefully you'll get adjusted and appreciate those. And I'm sure I'll hear one way or another on any of those things. But one of the things that you just experienced of old things that we brought back was the greeters. So I'd like to thank Marnie and Scott for kicking us off in the new year with greeters. What do you think about that? All right. So yeah, you're going to see other old things. You're going to see some things going away. I want to explain one of those. You're not going to hear the word tumbler time from me. And the logic on that was in the foundation meeting, we were talking about, well, what do we bring in tumblers? And Kitty, I don't know the exact number, $10 to $15. So it's work that we think could be put to other purposes for $10 to $15 a week. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the foundation periodically. So I'm going to take this one periodic moment to talk about the foundation. So it's the new year. It's time for those dollars to get on your badges. We were at in the old tumbler time days, it was $3. So then we came up with a dollar sign to bill everybody, make it easier. So $150 for the year. The foundation pushed that up to $200, which if you think about it, it's $4. But it's been $3 ever since I joined 12 years ago, 13 years ago or so. So think about that and getting that $200 in the kitty for the good of the foundation, so we can do the great things in the community that we do. There's going to be, as I said, there's going to be some new things to try to engage with you. I'm going to do a little, as Kitty says, shtick on Did You Know? So you're going to see a little Did You Know segment of maybe fun facts, interesting facts, and I'm going to test you to see, we got a lot of smart people in this room. I bet someone's going to know what these are. So we'll have a little fun with that. And then again, back to the recommendations at the large Rotary Club conference down in Baton Rouge. They had a breakout session all about trying to engage people and have more fun in meetings. And so I have tapped on the shoulder Skeet and Doug to be my inaugural ad hoc fun committee. So,
which Doug are we talking about?
So Wooten and Salzcaver are my little fun committee, and we'll see what they have for each week. The guidance to them was keep it clean. Don't get me in trouble. If you have anything on the border, check it with me first, so I don't get into trouble. But the recommendations at the event was things like keep it fresh, keep it new. So maybe it's a joke, maybe it's a video, maybe it's a cartoon, maybe it's a funny skit, maybe it's a funny story. So you'll see what they have for us today, and we'll get surprised each week on, and I will be surprised along with you on what that might be. So that's it for the news up front. I'm going to ask Bob Bedroll to come up and give our moment of inspiration, the Pledge of Allegiance, and our old four-way test. So Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, President Kevin. A few weeks ago, I made my third trip in 3 years to Rocky Mountain National Park. How many of you have been there? It's beautiful. In full transparency, I got high in Colorado. Not that high, 12,005 feet. I find a renewal of my spirit and perspectives in the confines of the beauty of nature. And I'd like to read some quotes on nature. Study nature, love nature, stay close to nature. It will never fail you. Monet. Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. Ralph Waldo Emerson. We simply need that wild country available to us, for it can be a means of reassuring ourselves of our sanity as creatures, a part of the geography of hope. Wallace Stegner. I think I cannot preserve my health and spirits unless I spend 4 hours a day at least, and it is commonly more than that, sauntering through the woods and over the hills and fields, absolutely free from all worldly engagements. Henry David Thoreau. And lastly, the best remedies for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere they can be quiet alone with the heavens, nature, and God. Because only then does one feel that all is it should be, and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature. As long as this exists, it certainly always will. And I know then there always will be a comfort for every sorrow, whatever the circumstances, and maybe and firmly believe that nature brings solace in all troubles. Anne Frank. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the four-way test.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Now please greet your fellow Rotarians.
Good to see
All right, everybody, we'll get back to the agenda. We have a number of guests, which is fantastic, and it has a bit of a international flair today. So I'm going to introduce you all. I'm going to ask you to stand and then remain standing. So we got 11 people. We have all 11 up, and then we'll recognize you at one time. First guest is Stephen Vickery. the son of Jim Pickard, our past president. We have Jessie Flannery, a research analyst with the Iowa House, daughter and guest of her father, Don Flannery. We have Gregory Neal, pastor of Grace United Methodist Church, guest of Sean Mullen. We have Jen Miller, vice president of Miller Pest and Termite, guest of Heather Stuyvesant. We have, and here we get into some international flavor, Danilo and Elsa Marcon. Danilo is the past district governor for D4045 in Argentina. He spent 16 years as the chair of the youth exchange program of their club, very involved with that, and is a guest of Matt, and they're a guest of Matt Busick. We have Pradeep Shroff. He is the father of our Malik Shroff, who will be introducing today as a new member. So it's wonderful that he could come on the day that his son is being introduced to us. And Pradeep has a long history with Rotary. It was 1993, he told me, a past president of the Bombay North Club, also assistant governor in India. So wonderful to have you. We have Doyle Sanders, attorney visiting from the Rotary Club, Northwest Des Moines Rotary Club. We have Joyce Wheeler, who is a pharmacist and visiting Rotarian from Waukee, wife of Todd. She is. We have Sinigi Baduo. She is an intern and guest of our speaker today. And we have Hunter Kula from Bank, Iowa, summer intern, guest of Kyle McCormick. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Okay, here's Kitty says the Kevin shtick. So here's what it is. I found some fun facts. If you all have some fun facts that you want to send me, I'll take recommendations as well. You'll kind of get the gist of it. And as I said, we got a lot of smart people in the room. So it's going to be a bit of a test too. So hopefully you'll learn something and maybe find some things a little bit humorous. And today you definitely will find some things humorous, or at least somewhat interesting. Okay, so the first one, so we got, for those who can't see, a British tank. And the question is, what is the cab of a British tank outfitted with for the drivers to make that a U.S. tank is not or does not have?
T.
Wow. That was an easy one, apparently. Yeah, they make they make their tea in the tank to keep them going during their warfare. So, okay, that was super easy. All right. Okay, now this is where I'm going to embarrass myself, but I thought, why not start the year off with embarrassment and fun? So here's the question. What does the Grinch that stole Christmas and Tony the Tiger, does the younger people in the room know Tony the Tiger? They do. So what do those two characters have in common?
Same narrator, same voice?
They're both mean. You've dressed as them for Halloween.
Well, Dave was the, I think we'll give it to you. So the voice that sang the theme song to the Grinch.
Oh.
And this is where I'm going to embarrass myself. And the voice of Tony Tiger was the same actor. His name is Thurl Ravenscroft. Look him up, Thurl Ravenscroft. He had a career like you would not believe in cartoons and what have you. So here's the demonstration.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You're a mean one.
Oh, convenient.
You're a mean one. What's going on here? Are you shutting this off? Okay. Here it goes. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Okay, that voice. And everybody with me. They're great. Okay. That's it for Do You Know segment today. Now we're going to the fun committee. So yeah, we're having fun today. So it has been named Rotarians on the Floor Laughing. Okay, and remember who your committee chairs are. So they have a couple things today. I think it's going to be a surprise to a couple folks in the room, unbeknownst to them. So, Kitty, please flip the slide. So this is their, this is the two of them. Doug doesn't know about, this is his football picture for Doug. And I wouldn't want to meet that guy in, in a dark alley with you. And then we've got Skeet as the other football player, obviously cute Skeet as the football player.
High school senior photo.
And the two of them are not done yet. So Doug, do you want to take over with the other sports-related photo? Kitty, you might want to turn around.
Excuse me, Miss Kitty.
Yeah. I'm not moving.
All right. Don't show it yet. All right, so up until now in the meeting, you have not been allowed to have any fun, so in a minute you can. So I don't know how many of you know that Kitty and I went to the same high school. One of us is older than the other. I won't tell you who's older. Anyway, I get to subscribe to the local paper. And weekly they will have, here's a photo from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, going back to 50 years ago. And just a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I hit the jackpot. We have to apologize for our display stand and our non-modern technology here, because we really couldn't figure out a way to get something loaded in the slide deck here without Kitty removing it. So go ahead and flip this up. Kitty was on the cheer squad in school. So you don't have to take photos. I will send everyone. This is when she had a different last name. She was in the witness protection program. So. Oh, and yes, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Now you can have fun. We'll just leave this up over here.
I'll take care of that for you.
I meant to say about the greeters, by the way, that Kitty now has the sign up online. So for those of you who remember those days, you just go in there and enter in your name. So that would be helpful, so I don't have to call somebody, but yeah, please jump on that and help us as we move forward. Now I'm going to introduce our new member, Malik Shroff. I'll go over a few of the questions to get to know Malik and a little bit about his resume, and then I'll ask him to come up and say a few words and answer another question that we had for him. So we asked Malik, you've got a free day, what would we find you doing? He said, volunteering his time for a good cause and binge watching Netflix. So all over that. Where in the world have you traveled and can't wait to go back? Well, that's a tough one for him because he's been to 30 countries, right? 6 continents, but Sydney, Australia is his favorite. What best piece of advice have you been given? Do the right thing, everything else will take care of itself. So true. What talent or skill do you possess that we might be surprised or would delight people? He says, I'm a very adventurous traveler, bungee jumping, bridge walking, tower jumping in multiple places around the world. Maybe when you get up here, you can share what bridge walking is. I'm really curious about that. Malik was born and raised in Mumbai, India. Married his high school sweetheart, has 2 daughters, 16 and 19. Has a CPA and an MBA and has worked at John Deere Financial for 21 years this August in various accounting and marketing roles. Currently senior product manager managing IT teams at John Deere Financial. And he spent 3 years in Singapore for them a while back. He's a board member of the Indo-American Association of Iowa and festival leader of the Iowa Asian Alliance. And now, Malik, I'd like you to come up. We asked him, one of the final questions that we had for him as he engages with us is, what can't you wait to tell your friends about the Rotary Club of Des Moines?
First of all, I'd like to thank Susan for sponsoring me. I appreciate it very much. What attracted me to Rotary is I've been involved in a lot of community service events over the several last years, and I just want to take it to the next level, work at a bigger sort of, contribute at a broader level. And as Kevin mentioned, my dad is here visiting from India, and he's been an inspiration for me for Rotary. Been there for 30 plus years, so it was just one of the things he's been pestering me, and I figured, appreciate it. Bridge walking. So if you've been to Sydney Harbour Bridge, you can actually walk on top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So I've done that. I've jumped off a tower in Macau. Walked around Sydney Tower itself, similar to the CN Tower in Toronto.
Wow.
And bungee jumping in Turkey. So yeah.
I hope the fun committee is taking notes.
Special thank you to Susan for all you do. I mean, phenomenal job in bringing folks to our club. So really, really appreciate you and thank you for all you do. And now our program chair, esteemed past president Dave Busick.
Kevin mentioned some old things would come back, and he looks at me. So. My pleasure today to introduce Matt Hauge. He is the Outreach and Communications Director at the Polk County Housing Trust Fund. Matt focuses on regional housing collaboration, home ownership opportunity among underserved communities, and advancing knowledge and action about the struggle that many local people and families face to find a safe, stable place to live. Today he's going to be talking about ADUs. If you don't know what that is, you'll find out shortly. Matt previously served as Executive Director of the Historic Valley Junction Foundation. Prior to that, he led marketing for community housing initiatives, a statewide provider of affordable housing. Matt comes from the Des Moines area, and if he seems particularly intelligent to you, that's because he is a fellow Mizzou Tiger. Matt holds an MPA with an emphasis in nonprofit management from the University of Missouri-Columbia, and I just learned today you studied journalism at the University of Iowa.
It's a little backwards, Steve.
Yes, you're right. Should have done journalism at Mizzou.
Yes.
Matt is also a wonderful singer. I know this because I stand next to him in the choir at Grace United Methodist Church, along with Sean Mullen, and our pastor Greg is here today as well.
No pressure.
They're both tenors, and that is a rare commodity for a church choir, as you know. So please welcome Matt Hauge.
Dave, and thank you, Mr. President, and all of you for being here today on this beautiful day before the humidity rolls into town. Kitty, I can sympathize with having high school photos show up. My alumni friends of Dallas Center Grimes out here behind me out the window are planning also a multiple decade anniversary this year, and they have promised to surface many things as well. So my sympathies to you. It happens to all of us, friends. It happens to all of us, and it can happen to you. If you're the one who brings a picture up here, it can happen to you. We all know that. We're all in it together. I'm here today to talk with you just a little bit about the organization where I work under the beautiful neon umbrella of the Insurance Exchange Building just down here, the Polk County Housing Trust Fund. Who's heard of the Polk County Housing Trust Fund before? Very good, many of you. I'm very happy about that. We are funded, I always kind of start with money a little bit, I'm afraid, but we are funded primarily by Polk County, by the Board of Supervisors, and have been around for 30 years as a program to help basically solve local housing problems in a whole variety of ways. So what the trust fund actually does every year is grant out about $2.5 million through a whole variety of programs. So we're almost always having a grant application come due. The next one will be homelessness assistance programs that'll be reviewed by our board in August. That grant application closed about 2 days ago. And that kicks off our new fiscal year. We fund new rental development, we fund owner-occupied repair programs to assist low and moderate income homeowners afford needed home repairs. We fund direct construction of new homes through organizations like Home Inc. or Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity. And very crucially also, we fund surrounding and supporting programs to help people find housing stability. This we do through a fundraising campaign which has a new name for the year that's dropping almost any minute now, it feels like, but historically that's been called Stable, Steady, Strong. Through that initiative, at the end of our last fiscal year, ending June 30th, we were able to grant $400,000 out into our community to a lot of organizations that you've heard of. Oak Ridge Neighborhood, a lot of things you can see out the window from here. Oak Ridge Neighborhood, ANWM Housing, Home Inc., and all the rest. So there's a lot of good that gets done in that community. Those monies focus on helping people navigate the very difficult conditions of today's housing market. You know, it's funny, Malik and I were having a conversation about the interest rates and the new inflation numbers have come out today. And now that I understand that you've walked across the Sydney Harbor Bridge, I understand why you seemed uniquely kind of brave in the face of the difficult financial conditions that we have these days. But I was sharing with him that obviously in housing we're a very interest rate sensitive world. We're really looking at the consequences of today's market. And as you probably are aware, Greater Des Moines, Iowa is one of the nation's sort of, I hate to say it this way, but in some ways it feels this way, last vestiges of housing affordability nationally. Our price to income ratio, as measured by the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies, recently hit 3.3, so the average house costs 3.3 times the average income. That is a record high for this region since I was born. Before I was born, actually, they measured that back to 1980. In a report that just came out. So we definitely feel that housing affordability is moving in the wrong direction for our region and our nation. At the same time, you know, Dave and I were talking about having a family member purchase a home out in California. Look, they would be very, very happy to have a price to income ratio of 3.3 in a state like California. They can reach as high as 11 in America now in some of our coastal markets that are the absolute hottest. And so we stand here knowing that housing affordability for many people is an area that Des Moines can be proud of, but also not an area, friends, not an area that we can take for granted. The average new construction price of a home in our region, according to the Greater Des Moines Home Builders, is now $420,000. That is out of reach financially for 3/4 of the people living here in Greater Des Moines, Iowa. So while we know we have achieved much and have much to be proud of, we don't take anything for granted. And at the Polk County Housing Trust Fund, I have to share with you that my concern largely rests with those members of our communities whose household incomes broadly fall below $50,000 a year. These are often caring professions and service workers, shopping, dining, and entertainment workers, people in nursing homes or care facilities, people who are providing child care, many of whose wages do not they don't earn enough in a typical year to afford rent even in our community. We now know that the average hourly wage needed to afford a modest two-bedroom apartment in our region just ticked up, according to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, to I think about $20.44 an hour, which is up dramatically since the pre-pandemic period and really causing a lot of rent stress. And so these are the things that we spend our days considering for the region, because housing opportunity matters to us all, to our economy, to our community, and to our neighbors. So it's a big challenge and a fast-moving one. What does the Polk County Housing Trust Fund actually do, though? It's a lot of things with people standing in rows and buildings, lots of pictures of buildings. You can see them there on the screen. I kind of just decided I would describe it by saying if it's had something to do with housing solutions for people in need in central Iowa, we've probably worked on it. And in fact, that's true. There you can see us on a tour of the region. We've been around to all of the larger local governments in the region over the last couple of years, having a lot of conversations about housing markets and how they've changed. You can see our previous Executive Director, Eric Burmeister, accepting a $12 million grant of American Rescue Plan Act funds from Polk County's government, which was kind of a special post-pandemic way to make sure our affordable housing market emerged from the pandemic in a successful way. You can see a few of the buildings that have opened recently. There in the center is one I'm truly proud of. That is 6th Avenue Flats, which you can see right out the window just north of Mercy Hospital, which was a Hatch Kiernan Galloway project that opened there. And just a couple of blocks north of that, if you're familiar with the North Des Moines City Hall, the project there by Kuku Saw and his partners has just received its housing tax credit, so will be going into construction in the next year. About a $12 million building that's also going to revitalize the historic City Hall, and we are investors in that project as well through our rental program funds. So just some examples of things. You can also see us down there in front of a Habitat house at a recent block party they held in the Accent neighborhood on the east side. You can see our colleague Cynthia Latcham there standing in front of former Days Inn on Merle Hay Road. That is the site of the Monarch Apartments, which is a permanent supportive housing project under construction on the extreme, basically the Johnston-Des Moines border, and where the freeway is and where Merle Hay crosses the border. Friends, I have a colleague, so I'm eager to, now that we know we sing in the same choir as the programming chair, I will be making recommendations to have some of our friends who work in the homelessness space back before this group. As you know, that's a tough topic in our region and across the country as well, and I just have to urge that we need more Monarchs. The estimate is that we need 523 individual units of permanent supportive housing, and Monarch contains 40. So you can notch that up as our progress toward our goal, okay? A lot more storytelling there for another day. If you look at what we're doing also in the context of regional strategy, and it's not hard to do that when you're perched up in such a beautiful vantage point as this one, we have to look back, for me, I think to 2011 in the RDG office when there was this energetic young person. Do you know the energetic young person, Bethany Wilcoxon? Yes, Susan knows her. Had gotten a grant to do something called the Tomorrow Plan, which was a regional sustainability plan looking at basically the next 50 years and sort of what would happen if we became a metro region that had 1 million people in it, and what kind of conditions would we want for the community as we grew that way. And one of the efforts that came out of that, funded by the Partnership and United Way and the Community Foundation and numerous others, has been Capital Crossroads. I'm hoping that everyone has heard Capital Crossroads, and we are all champions of regionalism. You can do the regionalism cheer in addition to the 4-way test if you want to. It wouldn't bother me if you did that. I'll leave it up to you. Kitty, that's my suggestion box comment. Thank you so much. She's been such a professional helping me through this. But the Capital Crossroads recently started its roadmap plan, which has us looking at some of the real key issues in the region going forward. And we're very affiliated with this effort. We encourage you to visit the Capital Crossroads website and find ways to get involved. You can see that actually I'm joined by a colleague from Baton Global who helped Capital Crossroads formulate the 3.0 plan, which is now underway, and identified workforce housing as one of the continued areas for regional collaboration going forward over the next 5 years, and we're now focused on a 2-year sprint to get some programming out there. We're focused on 3 big ways to win big. I'm trying to join the fund committee. My application is still pending. But 3 big ways to win big with workforce housing. Those 3 ways, we've come up with very banal names for them, so bear with me. But one of them being regional counting and preservation. Friends, the issue in affordable housing is always that if you're standing still, you're losing ground, because most government-supported housing comes with a ticking clock of how long those affordability restrictions last. I can look out my window and see previously income-restricted properties here, especially along the freeway in Des Moines, that are now at market rate, where rents have risen dramatically as those restrictions have ended. We have to get a sense of what it would take to preserve affordability in those properties, because they can affect housing stability for hundreds of residents at a time if the affordability restrictions are lost without a plan. Our region does not have the capacity to absorb comfortably that number of folks at once if one of these properties were to go offline. Friends, when we think about counting and accounting for the supply of regional housing, I'm compelled to mention my dear friend and ally in the fight, Brittany Speaker of Spencer, Iowa, who is responsible for their housing team up there, as 40% of the community has been ravaged by flooding recently. Let me tell you the truth, when disasters strike our community, God forbid, We've seen this in the derecho as well. That is a place that brings the issues around housing supply we have in our community into sharp relief. And frankly, whenever the system is tested, it's always those who have the fewest resources who are affected the most and find the toughest situation becoming stably housed again. And so our thoughts and our prayers are with all of our neighbors in Iowa who have been affected by that disaster. And it's a reminder to all of us of the need to preserve affordable housing. Zoning and land use reforms, as you're aware, the supply of affordable housing in our communities is very tightly connected to the right folks have to build housing. We're going to be focusing on that today with accessory dwelling units, what I promise I am actually going to talk about. And finally, economic development incentives. Right here in our own fair city of beautiful Des Moines, Iowa, our city currently has, through economic development incentives, just over 500 units under local affordability restrictions in buildings in the East Village and here around downtown that you've seen and heard of that help to set aside some apartments in those buildings as more affordable for residents who also then are able to live and work downtown in many of the places that we love to shop and visit and enjoy. That relationship is really important as communities provide incentives for new development or welcome new jobs. Those incentives need to align with whether there's going to be housing for the workers. This is something all Iowans understand. So that's what we're working on in Capitol Crossroads, and I would welcome you again to look up the website or talk to our beautiful, very talented, we're just so excited about Katie Patchett, who is the new director of Capitol Crossroads. She's just such a great talent and a bright star. I can't possibly praise her enough for the work that she's doing, keeping the whole initiative moving. A wonderful person. Okay, accessory dwelling units. We could have done the did you know question of what is an accessory dwelling unit. It's not a trick question really. An accessory dwelling unit is just a smaller home or a smaller residence that shares a lot with a larger single family residence. And here you can see some examples from around the country. Accessory dwelling units can be added to properties in a number of different ways, including over a garage or in the backyard. The point being that very often they're indistinguishable from other housing that already exists in the neighborhood. And we do have some examples in Des Moines. Here's an example that our nonprofit partner, Home Inc., recently constructed along with support from Invest DSM, Veridian, Credit Union, and several other partners. This is in the Oak Park neighborhood. You can see this beautiful brand new American Foursquare house. If you kind of start at the Chicago Speakeasy and drive up toward downtown Highland Park, it'd be on the north side of the street there if you ever want to drive by the house. But the ADU is in the backyard. I'm going to try, we're going to see, this worked in practice. This video will eventually maybe recognize that it's a YouTube, and it might show the inside of Kitty presses the mouse on the red. Yep. So here's a little bit of a video walking tour inside the ADU. We were able to kind of document this whole thing. So on your table is a handout about accessory dwelling units. On the back of that is a QR code. If you want to watch a documentary about how this unit was constructed, all about the design and layout, an interview with our dear friend Brad Anderson from AARP, who was one of the top regional experts in ADUs around the area. The whole thing is documented, and that QR code that is on the handout there, if you take a picture, it'll take you directly to the YouTube playlist where you can see how this space was designed. Our friend Brent Schipper at Ask Studio was the architect on this project and really tried to lay everything out in a very space-efficient way. And so I really would urge you, if you're interested in ADUs, to find that website or to visit pchtf.org/ADU to watch the whole video. It's like I got to produce a home improvement television show, which was kind of fun for us to get to watch this built from the ground up. So you can see more about what one would look like. You can imagine, I think, a lot better how you would live in it if you get to see it. So that's available. We'll try to click her on. There we go. So I wanted to sort of show you a little bit about how an ADU lays out on a lot. Obviously in Oak Park, it's an older Des Moines neighborhood, so we have narrow lots that are fairly deep. And so you can see the deeper foundation, which is there on the left-hand side, is the kind of brand new American Foursquare house that Home Inc. built. But back in the back there is the garage pad. This is before the concrete was poured. If I put the little highlighted shapes on there, you can see the main house on the left. And then the ADU is actually about a 600 square foot residence that is actually the same building as the garage. They're side by side. You can see then there's also a concrete parking pad behind the garage, which offers 3 parking spaces for the property. And if you think about Des Moines' historic neighborhoods, and you just kind of, especially those that have alleys in the back, which I'm talking about a lot of neighborhoods that I'm looking at right now, there's actually quite a bit of capability to build these type of buildings in these neighborhoods. Okay? So that is what an ADU is. We'll move on just to show you the flexibility. This lot size is more typical in a suburban community, kind of a mid-suburban community like Urbandale or Clive or West Des Moines. And you can see we have the attached garage off to the side of the house, just to point out to you that you can build ADUs in a variety of different configurations, be they above the home, above a garage, in the backyard as an independent building above the back garage. The typical trend is that they have an independent entrance from the outside of the building. The flexibility, the beauty of an accessory dwelling unit is once you have one on your property, the way that it's used can actually change and evolve over time, so you're not stuck just with one configuration forever. For example, those of us who are parents who have recently had a kid graduate from college and end up back with us for a few years, sometimes we think of ADUs as a post-college crash pad in this day and age. Maybe not forever though, might be the theme of that. They can also be rented. They can be rented for income. A real beneficial fact of that is that because ADUs tend to be smaller, they do tend to be associated with more affordable rents compared to larger units that are in the market. And what's the most important thing in real estate? Location, location, location. And the beauty of an ADU is it allows us to add more housing flexibly into a highly desirable neighborhood. And the beauty of that is that we can do that in a way that's not disruptive. So just adding an apartment above a garage is much less notable compared to, say, removing several houses and putting up an apartment building. Wouldn't you agree? You can do other things. If you don't have anybody living in it, they can be a bonus room or a home office for a few years. You can then, obviously, senior independent living. I mentioned Brad Anderson is one of the region's leading advocates for ADUs, and that's why is AARP interested. Well, folks, we've just come through the pandemic. And wasn't there a lot of conversation within families about how to maintain independence for aging family members while also getting them into a home-like setting close to loved ones during that time? And so interest in ADUs really around the country spiked as people were thinking about how their family might provide intergenerational living opportunities and have that independence but close to where family are. And so you can see that from a variety of different perspectives, ADUs bring benefits to our community. You can ask that family about intergenerational living and having a place for mom and dad to retire that's close to home. If you talk to city planners, they're going to emphasize the point I just made about being able to bring new housing choices into neighborhoods that we really love in a way that's not disruptive to the character of those neighborhoods as it exists today. That's a really key factor of having neighborhoods welcome in new housing, is how it will change the established look and feel of the neighborhood. If you ask an economist, there's one sitting there. We just asked an economist, we had Jenny Schutz in from the Brookings Institution back in April, if you saw that housing symposium. An economist will tell you that long-term housing affordability is really related to how well we allow new housing built in places where people want to live. And so allowing housing to be built in places where supply and demand can match is key to maintaining, frankly, that 3.3 cost-to-income ratio that really is a national treasure for our region. They ought to think about kind of displaying that on the side of this building maybe, so that we'll just all know that's not something we want to mess up, okay? So there's some perspective about it. Well, by this point, I'm sure you're already texting someone in your family or your household perhaps, and you're saying, we're going to build an ADU this summer. I think this is it. Let's run out to the Home Depot and pick up an ADU kit and get started on one. I think there's time before the snow flies to put one up. And congratulations to you for making that fine decision. I'll look forward to coming and visiting it. But you might run into some different zoning or local government concerns, because you see the ability to build an ADU is regulated by your city zoning code, and you need to be very attentive to what your city will allow. In 2022, the city of Des Moines took action to dramatically increase the opportunity that homeowners have to build ADUs, and this is on the back of the handout. If you kind of want to read about the local policy changes, grab that off your table. I didn't bring enough copies for everybody, but it's also at pchtf.org/ADU. But you can see there on the map, Des Moines has dramatically expanded where ADUs can be built in the community. Polk County followed suit, now allowing ADUs by right or without a lot of regulatory consideration throughout unincorporated parts of the county that have county zoning, which is a big change. In addition to that, you know, the policies out there vary widely, but actually are maybe more progressive than you would think on housing supply. A large portion of the city of Ankeny, for example, is designed to allow duplexes to be built, and so actually a large portion of older neighborhoods in the city of Ankeny allow ADUs today, if someone wanted to build one. So there's information about how you could consult with your local building officials. We are out in the community talking with local governments about how to modernize ADU policies, which is an important goal. Here are some of the policy trends quickly that you would find out if you were to go out and talk with local governments today, as we have done. And I'm just going to highlight these very, very briefly. How am I doing on time, Kevin? Probably time to wrap it up. 5 minutes. Okay, that's good. So he told me he would give me a look if I needed to speed things up. And so far, I think we're running a pace. Thank you, Kevin. ADU policy trends in Greater Des Moines. I mean, you know, if you want to go ahead and get out your TikTok and just broadcast these ADU policy trends, I know you were all just waiting for this on your Thursday, so I'll wait. Get your phone out. Oh, shoot. You know, for me, it's exciting. But for the size of the ADU is usually limited. This is going to be shocking. The ADU in many communities is just required to be smaller than the main house. But those requirements might vary from 650 square feet up to 1,200 square feet in our region, which is a good sized one-bedroom apartment kind of range, or maybe two, practical. ADUs come in all shapes and sizes. Your community might have expectations that the ADU needs to be attached to the main house, but often they're allowed as standalone buildings. Here in the city of Des Moines, for example, there's also a design requirement that the style of the ADU, so the color and the siding and the finishes that you use, match the prevailing style of your house. So the two look like they belong together as one property, similar to how detached garages match houses. Several communities say they have no problem with shared utility connections with the main house and the ADU, so that is to say you don't need 2 electric meters. You want to check with your electric utilities. There are some that have their own expectations for this. ADUs are still new in our area. You'll probably need to offer additional off-street parking. Prevailing policy in our region is 1 additional off-street parking space for the ADU, but Urbandale, and we're working with them on this, requires 2. And while ADUs can often be rented, you'll probably need a rental certificate if your city has a rental code, so your expectations for renting the ADU would be similar to renting any other property that can be used that way. ADU policy trends. You just never know what you're going to learn at Rotary, do you? It's really something. All sorts of knowledge, all the time, offered for free. So, you know, obviously, you might wonder, well, in the big picture, how do these policies stack up and what do they mean? I can't emphasize enough that if you want to go down this rabbit hole, you're going to want to look up AARP's website, which is also aarp.org/ADU. They have a national model ordinance, which is kind of the gold standard for how communities can regulate and welcome ADUs into the community. And frankly, that is the book, that a lot of the playbook, if you will, that we're often using as we make recommendations to communities that we're talking with here. In addition to that, there's a great publication called the ABCs of ADUs, which just goes into a lot more of the practical considerations about building one or about how they benefit communities. So I would encourage you to check both of those out. Friends, the overall takeaway here, if there is one, and we're driving toward that point, is ADUs are a way to allow housing flexibility into our neighborhoods. They do so without dramatically changing the character of what's already there. They give you a flexible housing option that could meet the changing needs of your household over the course of years, which in fact enhances the value and opportunity that you have with property you already own. And in addition to that, they do provide additional housing into the community, including housing that can be rented or available on the open market at a price that's associated with, say it with me, lower rents because they're modestly sized, and housing in highly desirable neighborhoods that, you know, normally fitting an apartment building into a single family neighborhood is something that raises a lot of eyebrows. So those are some of the key benefits and takeaways. We're going to be working with cities across the region to continue to promote what ADU policies are and how they work, and trying to standardize policies that make it a little easier for people to navigate all this when they approach the building permit counter at City Hall and ask to build one. So we will wrap it up at that point, and I'm thrilled to just remind you one more time, there's all of this information today is on the website pchtf.org/au, and if there is time for questions, I think we'll entertain one, but we may be running kind of tight.
Yeah, after.
Okay,
Will you stay?
I will stay around, and I'll hand things back over to Kevin. Thank you so much for having us.
All right, Matt, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all you do for Des Moines. You know, great work, and appreciate you staying around for questions if folks want to come up and speak with Matt. Upcoming speakers. We have Rachel Wacker with the Executive Director of the Greater Dallas County Development Alliance. The next meeting, we are going to be sharing our 3-year strategic plan and survey results. So be sure to be here for that. And then the next meeting, we have our own Tafiq Shah, CEO of Lola's Fine Sauce, who will be speaking to us about his business and the great story that they have to tell. So great opportunities on the front and back end. Strategy session, probably not the greatest to bring a guest, but please think about bringing guests to those other meetings, and love the guests that we've had here today. One thing that we're, again, bringing back, some of you might remember the concept of fuel. It is focus, unite, engage, and learn. And the concept is this, that one of the big things we got out of the survey was that people wanted an opportunity to network, to engage, to build relationships outside of Thursdays. So what can we try? What can we do to do that? And just get to know people. And so the concept of fuel is we're going to meet at 9 o'clock for coffee, and we're going to highlight one of our amazing members of our club. And there'll be an opportunity to chat amongst ourselves. They'll speak about their career, their learnings, sharing their successes, open up for questions and answers, and then open it up again for just discussion amongst us to get to build our relationships across the club. So the first one out of the chute is going to be Ann McFarland. And if you haven't met Ann, amazing career success story, and now just was made president of Assured Partners here. So it'll be an opportunity to get to know Ann a bit better and get to know other folks. That is in July. In August, we have Paul Schickler, former CEO of Pioneer, to speak about his career and sharing his learning. So we're going to give it a try. Hopefully you guys will participate with us. And now I will bring it to a close. Thank you all for coming. Please reach out to folks that you don't see here today and talk about the great time you had here at the meeting. We'd like to get more and more people at our Thursday meetings. Kitty, happy birthday. Make it a great day. Malik, great to have you a part of our club. Matt, thank you again, and thank you all for coming. We are adjourned.